Hi, I'm Joan Cartan Hansen. Thank you for joining us for this Dialogue Web Extra. We're talking about religion and society based off a Pew religious a study from the Pew Forum on religion and public life, saying that religion is declining in America. Let's go ahead and get to our first caller. Let's see, Ron in Nampa. Ron.
Yeah, my question is, since the Bible and prayer were taken out of public schools in the 60s, if it was reintroduced again, do you think that would have a positive influence in today's culture and people being exposed to, in terms of Christianity, God's truth? Okay,
hold on. We'll go ahead and throw that question out.
I would suggest, Ron, because you have a great first name, by the way, but I would suggest that because of the way that we've moved as a society, as the way that we've structured ourselves, that it would be virtually impossible to bring prayer back or God into the classroom. Let me give you an idea. I was on the school board here in this area for some years, and during one of the convocations, there was a young man who objected to having a invocation and also to have a closing prayer. So I saw that as a wonderful experience to teach this senior class as we sat together in terms of civics. I explained that government is to answer to and to represent the majority, but it's also to protect the minority. So as we visited with the individuals, we actually instructed them that the student had hired an attorney and was going to make his case known. And so we were able to arrive at a decision that allowed everyone their particular way that they were able to open and also to close their meetings. So I think, to answer your question, I think we've come so far in terms of the concept of rights. Individuals see themselves as owning rights, and instead of a concept of an actual concept of a privilege, they see that as a right, and that has stolen a lot of the innocence and a lot of the opportunity, I would argue. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, I think people often look to that decision as, kick God out of schools, and that was a terrible thing. And I think God is connected anywhere, but I think in some regard to kind of force the Bible and God into schools, I think to be fair, you have to have lots of things on schools. You have to have readings from lots of traditions, not just Christian. But I think in some regard, the Christian religion should be connected to the home and to the church. But to force a captive audience, I'm not sure that's the best road forward. While I think the Bible and God are very important, I think those are places for families and for parishes and churches to be a stronger influence there than kind of forcing it in the schools.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for your call, Ron. I'm going to go ahead and get the next caller in. I'm sorry, don't run through it. Dan in Nampa. Dan.
Hi. I was just going to say that as you see alternative sources of information, we don't really have to be worried about them or their choice in religion, so long as they're taught how to be rational. People can see how to be ethical without religion just because there's theory of mind, sort of a common knowledge of another person, and sort of a transposition we can do from ourselves to them. We don't want to be harmed, and so we don't want others to be harmed, realizing that as it happens to them, it could happen to us.
All right, Dan, thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to go ahead and put you on hold for just a little bit so you can hear that comment.
Yeah, I certainly think reason is important. I think it connects to earlier. Just because the pastor said it, I'm still going to think about it. And I agree. I think reason connects to a lot of ways in which we are to love and care for others. I do think in some religious traditions, they encourage things that sometimes aren't always reasonable by being a servant instead of being the most powerful. But I think reason is very important, and it should be a big informant, not the only informant. Reason is guided and shaped by a lot of things as well.
Let me toss out the philosophical question real quick. Does religion hold society together, or does it tear it apart? And Ron, let me toss that to you.
Okay, thank you on that. As a political scientist, I'm going to have to give you that pat answer. It does both. Because basically, the argument would be in terms of keeping society together, helping them. I mean, what's wrong with harmony? What's wrong with equity? What's wrong with the concept of giving and gifting and consecrating? Many of these churches offer things like Boy Scout troops and youth programs and wonderful opportunities to educate. But by the same token, there's a concept of we're right, you're wrong. There's a concept of you have to believe our way, or that's the wrong way. Or as we were talking earlier in the same study, an actual secondary to this study, atheists and agnostics know more about the functionality of many of the religions than those individuals in the religions who say, I don't know what you believe, but we're right. And that causes a lot of rancor, and we can go back years and years and centuries, and we can argue the fact that maybe more people have been killed in the name of God, or a God, or Christ, or we can just get to the actual reality of where we are today. What do we do with our existence on this earth? Why are we arguing over who we are or who we should be? We are an actual culture that is in decline. We need to step up the pace. We need to create a way where every individual can feel value, can feel worth. And I think that you do that in groups. You do that where you can have reinforcement. Someone saying, "Gosh, I believe the same way you do. I understand it that way," and suddenly you have validity. And you can use that, and you can optimize your life. You can then become that individual, I would argue, that you would really like to be.
But can you also say, I'm part of your group, I don't believe exactly what you believe, but I think we can work together? Isn't that as important in a group?
That's how groups grow, Joan. That's how you have the concept of this overall. It's called the concept of pluralism. It's a concept of diversity where you have a lot of different ideas, and that's what keeps things fresh and keeps things alive. That's what creates opportunities for other people to join. If you have a closed tent, as it's called, it's the old blood, and you die away. You need new ideas. You need innovation. You need excitement. You need energy.
I think religion has certainly done both. Let me give you an example. In the 1940s in Germany, the church was silent as Hitler did his task, and we were pretty brutal on that church in Germany for not causing disorder. John Wesley in the 18th century is largely credited for his care and compassion for the poor, for actually keeping England from going into a bloody revolution that France went into. So I think ideally the church is to call for justice.
The church in the bigger picture.
The bigger sense of the church, the religion in general, all the faiths, are to call to speak out against injustice, to speak for mercy and compassion. So when folks are being unmerciful, when nation states are oppressing others, the church is called to react against that so that peace might come in the end. In the meantime, disorder might happen in a kind of countercultural way.
But the problem, then we go back to our original question on the survey. If people aren't paying attention to what's being said in the church, if it's not influencing them on how they vote and what politicians they want, then is religion not doing its job?
I think persons have simply stopped looking to religion, and I think part of it is those religions, it's their own fault, that they think they can have an individual faith that doesn't speak into those things. And so the church probably has lost its way in simply allowing the privatization of its own ends.
Okay, Ron, I'm going to give you, I've got about a minute left, and I'm going to give you the last word, so go for it.
Thank you. I think there needs to be responsibility for the individual too. I think that individual needs to learn. They need to educate themselves. They need to be able to bring themselves up and not always complain and blame the church or to blame someone else for their misunderstanding. I think it's important that we continually seek out good works, that we continually meet good people, that we find our way in this life, and instead of arguing all the time that it should have been one of those lives that was strong and that it was better, that it can be best if we accept responsibility ourselves and if we move toward that harmony that should exist in all of our lives.
And thank you. If you're interested in learning more about the Pew survey that shows the decline in religion, that's also on our website, as well as the Pew religious knowledge test, which you can take on our website. Both go to idahoptv.org and click on dialogue. You'll find that. If you want to learn more about the PBS series that's coming up in October 11th, 12th, and 13th, called God in America, it's an American experience Frontline Joint Effort. It's a marvelous series. It's very interesting. Check that out when it airs here on Idaho Public Television. Gentlemen, thank you. Brett Peterson here in Boise.
Thank you.
Ron Scott there in Pocatello. Thank you for being here. I appreciate
Thanks,
you
Joan.
joining us. And thank you for joining us for this Dialogue Web Extra.